that, you can achieve anything you want. Don't hold yourself back. Don't be thinking that you're failing when you're not doing as well as your colleagues or a friend. No, you're not failing. You're maybe not as successful as them yet. But as soon as you realise that failure doesn't exist, you can move forwards without worrying that you're going to fail.
His name is Stephen Robinson. He lost his right arm at the age of 18. And from that moment, he's done everything most people struggle to do with two arms, including flying an aeroplane and writing a book.
And I think adversity really does help us along the way. And when you look at the most, I suppose, successful people, they've all experienced some type of adversity that has given that bit of a push to go that extra mile, because they realise they've got to go that extra mile.
He has proven to everyone and to himself that we're all capable of overcoming obstacles and turning them into our greatest assets.
I realised a long time ago that I was competing with people. When I had two arms, I was competing with all the other students at school, and I didn't like competing. I didn't really particularly like competition sports because there was always somebody better than you.
Make yourself comfortable with a cup of tea or coffee and enjoy this riveting story on embracing life's tapestry. Steve, how did losing your arm at 18 years of age shape the person you've become today?
Well, to be fair with you, it's totally changed the person that I was, and my personality totally changed. Prior to losing a right arm, I was really shy, really insular, and wouldn't say boo to a goose. And I was afraid of everything, really. And I suppose that was due to the bullying that I experienced as a young child. And my escapism was motorbikes, and I started riding motorbikes at the age of 13. And I didn't go to school that often. I went maybe twice a week if I was lucky. And the truant officers used to be constantly knocking on the door saying, why isn't Stephen attended school in the last 5 weeks? I'd attended 6 days and something daft like that. Well, I didn't want to be, because I didn't want to be with the bullies. So motorbikes shaped my early life. But then losing my right arm on that motorbike totally changed my perspective of life altogether. First of all, I woke up and I was super happy, which it sounds ridiculous, but I was super happy because all my acne had gone, and the acne was the cause and ammunition for the bullies. So overnight, it seemed, I just woke up in hospital and I was acne free. I didn't realise I'd been there maybe well over a week in a coma and had been pumping me with antibiotics, which had cured my acne. But all I could see when I looked in the mirror wasn't the fact that I'd lost a right arm, but was the fact that I'd lost all my acne. And I was so overjoyed by that everything else seemed to pale in insignificance. And I suppose that was an awakening for me. I realised at that point that life was precious. I'd been really religious before. Not religious, but I wouldn't go to bed without saying my prayers every night. I wouldn't, and that was never taught to me or instilled in me. My family are like that. It was just me. That's what I wanted to do. But strangely, after my motorcycle accident, I didn't feel the need to do that. And it's strange because maybe I'd met somebody or something of a higher purpose and realised I didn't have to pray every day to them because they were around me all the time watching me. I knew what I was doing. So I came away from that experience being spiritual rather than religious. And it sounds stupid, but it was a good experience. Would I change anything? No, I'd probably go through it all again, because without that experience, I wouldn't be the person I am today.
How did you manage to secure an income for yourself after you woke up in that hospital with no right arm?
Well, that was a tricky one, because I did realise at the moment when I left hospital, and I'd trained as a motor mechanic, and I was a good motor mechanic, and I'd been offered some really good jobs, one of them being in the Formula One pits, because one of the lecturers was involved at a high level with Formula One. And I was the top student. There's me and another student, and we were the top student of the whole years, of the whole different year groups. And so I had that job lined up, and I had some other jobs lined up that were equally exciting. I had jobs lined up in garages, working on commercial vehicles, working on motorbikes, doing all types of different work, because I was good at what I did, which is surprising because I'd never been any good at anything. But when it came to later on after school, I went to technical college, I was very good at that. So it just shows they were teaching me the wrong things at school. But at the moment when I woke up and I was in hospital and I looked in the mirror and I realised my arm had gone and all my acne had gone, I also realised that all my job opportunities had gone. because I realised that those jobs that were waiting for me would no longer be waiting for me. But I'd also approached the RAF because I was really interested in becoming an engineer on helicopters. And I went to approach the RAF it was the last year of my course. And the RAF said to me, well, why didn't you come to us before you went to college? And I said, well, stupidly, I thought maybe I needed a college education before I could come to you. They said, we would have trained you in everything you needed to know. So they said, come back after I'd finished the college course, and they would give me, obviously, a position in the RAF. Unfortunately, I lost my right arm in the last term of my college course, so I never actually got to work as a motor mechanic for anybody else. I did for myself, but I realised because the job opportunity had gone, and I didn't know what a one-armed man could do because I'd never been a one-armed man before. I'd been an able-bodied person with two arms. And all of a sudden, you now got to do what a one-armed person can do. But how do you know what a one-armed person can do? Because I was fresh to it. I didn't know what was possible and what was impossible and what I could and couldn't do. But it turned out that I was very good at everything. And previously I hadn't been. And I think that was a mindset because I realised I had to be more active and I had to try harder. And I couldn't stop at the first hurdle and think, well, I can't do that, so I'll stop, where previously I may have done. This time I had to push harder because I realised it was going to be difficult with one arm anyway. So I expected everything to be difficult. And as a consequence, it wasn't. And I really enjoyed it. But I didn't know what I could do, so the only thing I could do was to try everything until I found something that I was capable of doing and something I was good at. The upshot of that is I found I was good at everything I put my hand to, and I became quite successful at different areas. But, maybe that was a mindset change. I don't know. But I just became good at things. I was a motor mechanic. I was a break dancer. I was a DJ. I was karaoke compere. Well, who would have thought I'd ever be singing on stage? I never thought that. And then I did lots of other things. And I invented jukeboxes. I invented a prosthetic arm. I became a private pilot. I did all sorts of things that I never, ever envisioned that I would do.
You think adversity is a great teacher in life?
It definitely is because, most people say, they say it doesn't kill you. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I think that's really true. And I think adversity really does help us along the way. And when you look at the most, I suppose, successful people, they've all experienced some type of adversity that has given that bit of a push to go that extra mile, because they realise they've got to go that extra mile. You look at certain people that are millionaires and billionaires that come from really impoverished families, and that's because they've experienced poverty and they want to break free of that. And I suppose I was breaking free from the shackles of having one arm.
You just mentioned there about successful people. Do you look into successful people or look up to them?
Well, it's strange that one. A few people have said to me in the past who are my role models, and I really don't have any, except when I see people that are doing well and I see them struggling and I see them just continuing despite what you think would stop somebody, and then I see them succeed and come out the other side. I admire that, and I think, I admire that in people that never give in and keep struggling. Because they do say behind every successful person, there's been 1,000 failures.
True, I agree with that. And actually, I'm talking to John Stapleton shortly enough, the next couple of days, and he has a subject called, you have to cope with adversity and learn from it to become successful in the first place. So it's a very interesting subject matter. What inspires you the most to become successful in life?
I realised a long time ago that I was competing with people. When I had two arms, I was competing with all the other students at school, and I didn't like competing. I didn't really particularly like competition sports because there was always somebody better than you. And I didn't really feel comfortable with being second, third, fourth, fifth, or even last. And I perceived that as a failure. But I become to realise that failure doesn't exist. It's just different degrees of success. Some people are more successful than others. That's all. It's just a different level of success. So, I realise that success can be for everyone. And as soon as you stop competing with other people and you only start competing with yourself, you'll always do better because you think, well, I've done this job today, but tomorrow I want to do it that little bit better and make it a bit neater, a bit tidier. So you do, and you've upped your level and you've upped your game. And the next time you think, well, I'll just better that a little bit more, and you better it a bit more. And so long as you're competing with yourself and nobody else, you're sure to win every time, because you will better what you did before, and you will, you keep going higher and higher and higher. And when you look round at all your friends and all the people you was competing with, you'll realise you've surpassed them because you wasn't watching them anymore. And that's what the key is. Don't watch what they're doing. Concentrate on what you're doing and do better than you did last time, and you'll succeed.
You're making a very valid point there, Steve, which I agree with, because there's no point, looking over your shoulder at other people and seeing what they're doing. By all means, look into successful people, but don't look up to them. That's how I look at life. But you have to concentrate on what you need to do yourself in order to push your own boundaries forward. As Dave Heiner says, get inside the box and push the boundaries of the box out. So you have to concentrate on what you need to do yourself. If you're spending your time looking over your shoulder at other people, you're wasting your time, because they're not going to tell you what they're doing or what they plan to do in the near future or how they're successful in their niche. So you have to, as you say, get your head down and push your own boundaries that bit further every day. Steve, you have the British Empire Medal. What thoughts were in your head when you went to Buckingham Palace to receive your medal on the day?
Well, a lot of people actually say that they don't want these medals. And okay, I accept that. Some people may want them, some people may not want them. But for me, somebody thought they were doing something good for me. And the fact that they thought they were doing something good for me, there was no way I was going to throw it back in their face and say, no, I don't want your medal. I thought, thank you very much. It's like if somebody opens the door for you, are you going to shout at them and say, don't you open that door for me? I think, well, how ungrateful is that? So if anybody says to me, even when I'm out and they see me struggling with one arm, and they'll say, can I get the door for you? And don't forget, I'm quite capable of getting the door for myself. I would never say to that person, no thanks, or no, you don't need to get the door. Because they've offered and gone out of their way to offer, I'm never going to shoot them down in flames. I'm going to say to them, oh yes, please, thank you very much. Even if I don't need that help, I'm going to say yes, please. And I'm going to say yes, please to them because they went out of their comfort zone to offer assistance and help. And what sort of person would I be if I shot them down? Because if I did and I said, no, go away, leave me alone, that person will never offer help or assistance to anybody ever again. So for me, that's really important. So when I was offered the British Empire Medal, I thought, yeah, I'll have it. Thank you very much. It's a little bit of recognition. Yeah, we know the government gives Empire Medals or other awards to people that maybe don't really want them, or maybe do. There's a debate, a big debate really, that they say politicians shouldn't get them, these people shouldn't get them. But if you're offered them, you're not going to say no, thank you. I was super proud of that. And I went down to the Buckingham Palace, met the Queen and the Royal Garden Party. I'm glad I met the Queen, because I may not say that I'm a royalist, but I'm not anti-royal. I'm sat on the fence. I'm glad that Britain has got a royal family, because I think they're a fantastic tourist attraction. And I think that, and it's a figurehead. And I'd rather that than a president. So given the options, I think I'd stay with a royal family. But yeah, I was super proud. And the day out was wonderful. And the sandwiches was very good. So they always talk about the cucumber and mint sandwiches. And in actual fact, there were more than cucumber and mint. They were really wonderful sandwiches. So I was pleasantly surprised.
Man, well done. Hope you enjoyed the day. That's the most important.
I did.
So a once-in-a-life opportunity. When you signed up to get flying lessons, what thoughts entered your head? And what do you think your flying instructor thought of you as a person?
Well, when I signed up for flying lessons, I was absolutely petrified. I needed 3 weeks hypnotherapy to fly to Spain on holidays. I was terrified of flying. And I used to pray all the way, because I was terrified the aircraft was going to crash. Every little click and sound, and I was petrified. Every little bit of turbulence, I thought, that's it, it's over. And I didn't want to be afraid of flying. So I applied for a flying scholarship. And the people that I applied to were called Flying Scholarship for disabled people. And I was offered a flying scholarship, and Prince Faisal of Jordan awarded me the flying scholarship. And to be honest with you, although I'd been awarded it and I'd not started flying, the fact that they'd awarded me and given me something, again, was one of those moments where you think, thank you very much. You know, somebody's actually giving me something, like opening the door, giving me the British Empire Medal. If somebody wants to help, I'm going to accept the help, and I'm going to accept it gracefully and be happy with it. So I accepted the flying scholarship, and I started flight training. And it took the NHS 12 months to make me a prosthetic arm so I could fly the aircraft. But that prosthetic arm failed dramatically at 3,500 feet, and it fell off. And we went in a spiral dive and dropped through a cloud. And my flying instructor, he was laughing, I was laughing, but it was a scary situation. But we realised I had to go back to the drawing board and do something about the prosthetic arm. But what I enjoyed about that is that my flying instructor had confidence in me, more than I did myself. So he had confidence in the fact that he could teach anybody to fly an aircraft. And from that instructor, I went on to another instructor and started flying from Leeds, the Leeds area, where previously I was flying down south from RAF Kemble. Now I was flying at Leeds, and I met another flying instructor, and he just went above and beyond. Don't get me wrong, there was always somebody, some senior management that always said, no, you can't fly with one arm, you can't do this, you can't do that, and they put obstacles in my way. But my flying instructor said, Steve, he said, they're going to put loads of obstacles in your way. He said, more than anybody else. He said, you'll have to outperform an able-bodied person just to prove you're equal to them. He said, so when they say to you, do this, do that, do whatever, he said, and even though able-bodied pilots don't have to do that, he said, just jump through the hoops. He said, just jump through the hoops, and once you've done what this main guy was asking me to do, he was called the chief flying instructor. Once I'd done what he was demanding that I did, he couldn't stand in my way any longer. So he kept saying, you can't do this with one arm, you can't operate the flaps, and you can't operate the throttle and steer the aircraft with the stick at the same time. So I made my own prosthetic arm, and I proved to him that I could. So then that ticked that box, and he said, oh yeah, you can do that. So he couldn't object to that anymore. So then we went on to the next problem that he said, but you can't do this. And I jumped through that hoop, and he ticked that box and said, oh yeah, you've done that as well. And we had all these things that he said that I couldn't do with one arm. And I just went through them all systematically, and I proved to him on every point that I thought I couldn't do, that I could do. And when it got to the end of the list that he had, he said, I have no more things that I can put in your way. I've got no more obstacles. You've done them all. He had no option but to accept that I could fly an aircraft. And at the end of my flight training, I got my pilot's license in 2015.
Congratulations and well done, Steve. And it's a great example of coping with adversity, because you proved the chief flying instructor wrong on every occasion, and you dealt with adversity by getting your own prosthetic arm built and designed for yourself. So that's a great story to share with the audience. So well done to you.
Thank you.
What inspired you to write the book, No Arm in Trying?
Well, it was a strange situation. A friend of mine had written a book, and some other friends had written books, and I work now as a motivational speaker. And somebody said to me, just in a flippant remark, they said, if you want credibility as a speaker, you must be an author. And I said, really? Do I need to write a book just to have credibility? Doesn't standing on the stage and speaking to 3,000 people, doesn't that give me the credibility that I need? And then they say, yes, it does. But it doesn't prove you've got the expertise that you're talking about. Well, I'm thinking, well, I am an expert. I know all about making a prosthetic arm. I know all about losing a right arm. I know all about adversity. I know about all these things that I've experienced in life that I've bounced back from. I know about being poor. I know about being wealthy. I know about all these areas that everybody's struggling with. I know about phantom barriers where people think that something's really holding them back when we're literally holding ourselves back. I know all about that. And I thought, but do I need to write a book to prove that? Can I not just tell people that? And they said, yeah, you can, but it would give you more credibility if you became an author. So I thought, right, okay. I'd been meaning to do it for a lot of years, but I am dyslexic. So I never fancied doing it. But I just started. And I always thought it would be difficult to start, because it's like anything. We keep thinking, I can't do this because of X, Y, and Z excuse. And you don't actually start the journey because you've already talked yourself out before you start it. So I thought, just start it. Because when you start a journey, you tend to finish it. Or even if you don't, you get halfway through the journey, or you get a little bit through the journey, and you'll pick the journey up at a later date. So that's what I did. I just put everything down on paper. I started by writing the chapters of my life, really, which were decades or just eras of, childhood and school and motorbikes and grandfather and all the things that were important to me. And ended up with about 50 or 60 chapters of all these things I wanted to write about. And then all I did is I wrote about each one, and that was my key focus. If it was early days, I wrote about all my early days going to school and hating it. And then it was about my grandfather, I wrote all about my grandfather and how he inspired me. And that's how it just built on and built on from that. And before I knew, I had a book. And it had a few spelling mistakes, obviously, because I'm dyslexic, but they were easy to sort out. The main key to writing any book is to get your story down in words. Anybody can do it, because I'm no different from anybody else. Anybody can do it. It's just start the journey and keep going until you get to the end of that journey.
I think what you're saying there, Steve, is that mindset is important, and to believe in your own story and get it out there on paper, and then you can refine all your thoughts and put it into a succinct book. So well done to you.
Thank you.
I've seen you speaking on the stage in Coventry in 2019, Steve. Where do you see yourself taking your speaking business?
Well, I have been speaking internationally, but I'd like to speak further afield. Now, I've spoken in America, I've spoken in Spain, I've spoken in a lot of the European countries. I've never spoken in Ireland, by the way. And I'd love to. And I'll tell you why, because my great-grandmother was from Cork. And it feels like when I go back to Cork, don't get me wrong, I've never lived in Cork, and I've never lived in Ireland. I have been many times, but when I go back, I feel like I'm going back to the motherland. That's how strange, isn't it?
Yeah.
It just feels like home. And I like that, because all my ancestors are Irish, although, the blonde seems gone. But I still feel that Irish blood is in me, and it is because I did the DNA sample not so long since, and it proved that I am, I think, 50% Irish or somewhere around there, 30% Irish. I thought, I love that, because Ireland's beautiful. But I'd like to speak more internationally. I'd like to go back into the States even more. That was good fun. And I'd like to do more of Europe. And I'd like to do further afield. I'd like to do Dubai and the Arab Emirates and those type of countries. It's just spreading the word that, you can achieve anything you want. Don't hold yourself back. Don't be thinking that you're failing when you're not doing as well as your colleagues or a friend. No, you're not failing. You may be not as successful as them yet. But as soon as you realise that failure doesn't exist, you can move forwards without worrying that you're going to fail. And as long as you realise, again, don't compete with anybody else. Just compete with yourself. And you'll before you know, you'll be flying high. Well, literally, if you take flying lessons.
I know what you're saying there, Steve, that you have to keep reminding yourself that we're all on the same journey. We all want to earn a good living from professional speaking or motivational speaking or coaching, mentoring people, whatever the case may be, selling online courses. We're all on the same journey, but we're at different stages of that journey.
No, yeah.
Don't be looking at over your shoulder at other people. I have one final question for you today, Steve, and that is, if you were given the opportunity to have one single request granted without question, what would that be?
Wow, that is a difficult one. One single request. Do you know what I'd probably ask for? I'd probably ask for 3 requests. You may have one request. It's like the wish. When somebody says, you've got one wish, what would you wish for? Well, I would wish for 3 wishes. So I've got more. But yeah, the one request, I think I wouldn't mind living forever. Or the one that I would really like, I wouldn't mind, I would like this. I'd like to meet aliens. And I would like to meet aliens and see alien life before I die. Because I do believe they're out there. I'd just like to meet them. Because I know there's a bigger picture that we're not aware of. It's like, I always say this to friends and children when they talk to me sometimes, and when I'm speaking at schools, they'll say, well, aliens don't exist because we don't know they're there. I said, yeah, but do you think the little amoeba or the little ant or the little creepy crawly on the ground, do you think it knows that we're there? I said, no, we're not in its sight. We're beyond its intelligence level. It's not aware of us. And I certainly think that we're not aware of something much, much bigger than we are. So definitely they exist. I would like to see aliens before I die.